All right, we're live. So welcome to the care and continuity in the time of an emergency online teaching situation chat. I'm Mia Zamora. I'm at Kane University, which is in New Jersey. And we have a little bit of a protocol for introducing ourselves. It's very quick. It's name, affiliation, and also where in the world you are, and whether or not you've been moving from like face-to-face teaching to online teaching, what your status is right now. So I've told you my name and my university, and I'm in New Jersey at the moment, and I am starting online teaching on Monday, but I've been in face-to-face until this moment. So there is a roster for our introductions. It's a little bit higher up in the chat, but Maha, I pass the the baton to you.
All right. I'm Maha Beli from the American University in Cairo in Egypt, and I'm the co-facilitator of Equity Unbound and co-facilitating this conversation with you. And we just heard like an hour ago from our university president that we're taking an early spring break for a week and then going online for 2 weeks. But there's no news from Egypt except if like a school has a case, then they close down, but everyone else is working almost normally, but we were closed for weather reasons. Okay, next up is Rissa.
Hi, my name is Clarissa Sorensen Unruh, and I'm at Central New Mexico Community College in sunny Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we are not closed or online yet, but we feel like it's probably imminent.
Yes.
Sorry, Fran, you're next.
Sorry, hi, I'm Fran. I'm connecting from University of Padova in Italy, and we are on lockdown. So we've been, online since last week when lessons started again after the exam session.
Okay, I think I'm next in the roster. I'm Laura Gibbs. I teach for the University of Oklahoma, but I live in North Carolina, and we've got spring break next week, and then they've told us we're going online for the 2 weeks after that. That's the current plan. So Brenna, I think, is next.
Sorry, I almost didn't unmute there. Hi, my name's Brenna Clark-Gray. I'm at Thompson Rivers University in British Columbia, Canada. And I'm an educational technology coordinator. So I'm prepping for folks to go online because I feel like it's coming, but we have not had any official word. We are technically still open. I'm in my office with my kid art. Oh, sorry, it's Sue.
That's okay. Hi, I'm Sue Beckingham from Sheffield Hallam University in the UK. We're still working, universities are open, and I'm actually at a university where we're not using online predominantly at all. In fact, there's very little distance learning, so the concept of that is quite scary if that was to happen.
Yeah, but what my fear is, or expectation is, that many faculty are not even looking at stuff.
Next up is Sherry.
Hi, this is Sherry, and I am in Vienna, Austria, and I teach at an international school. I teach elementary physical education, and we will be closing school on Tuesday is our last day with kids. And so from then on, we have distance learning plan, and we are a well-resourced institution, so we have the capacity. Let's see how it goes.
I think I'm up next. I'm Bonnie Stewart. I'm in Windsor, Canada, and the University of Windsor, I know there's currently a Senate meeting happening. We're expecting probably an online announcement to emerge at the end. I teach in a faculty of ed, and my classes actually ended yesterday. So yesterday was the end of term. I teach online to an extent anyhow, but what we had, the announcement just came in. We are done with face-to-face classes. There we go. So my partner who just Skyped me that is part of the team that is putting things out. Well, it's announced now, Dave. There we go. So yeah, we're just trying to get things sort of set up to go online and to support people in trying to get through to the end of term. We got announced yesterday at 4:20 p.m. that our schools here in Ontario will be closed for the next 3 weeks. My first response was 3 weeks with my amazing and lovely children. And my next response was in half an hour, I was about to meet my evening class of BEd students for their final class and tell them that their practica were going to be delayed by 2 weeks without any information. So interesting times all around.
Hey guys, I'm Autumn Keynes. I am an instructional designer at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. I'm in a little bit of a crazy situation because I was also sick myself last week. And so I had sick time. I really haven't left the house in 2 weeks. It's kind of a little bit of cabin fever, to tell you the truth. Earlier this week, just a couple of days ago, they announced that we were closing for 3 days and then all of our classes were going to go to online. I think it was yesterday, the governor announced all K through 12 schools throughout the state were closed. So then you're thinking about, well, now all the parents are at home with their kids, right? And then today, the big announcement came that all the managers who work all the different units at the university are encouraged to find ways for people to work from home as well. So we're still, the library is on summer hours. There's some skeleton crews, but a lot of remote work going on. And I'm passing it over to Sheila.
Hi everyone, thanks Autumn. So I'm Sheila McNeil. I'm in Glasgow in the UK. I'm actually an independent consultant just now. So I'm working with a number of universities around a lot of different things, including online learning and digital literacies. Quite interesting things are being pushed aside there, but I'm just really interested in what's happening because obviously the other thing I'm involved in, I'm the chair of ALT. So we've had to move our OER conference. We took the decision this week to move that wholly online, which a number of you will know about that. So I'm just really interested in this conversation and what's going to happen, but I am passing on to Alan.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Great to see everybody. Alan Levine from the middle of Canada. I have no affiliation, so my organization has been online for years, and so it's great to see everybody. Just kidding, but I do co-teach with Mia, and we're dealing with Kane, and actually it's not a huge deal for us because we've been doing a lot online, and it's a rather interesting time. And so I get to pass it all the way to Australia to my good friend Kate, who I haven't even talked to for such a long time. So great to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you all too. I'm Kate. I'm from Wollongong, south of Sydney. Our campus is still open. My role there as an Associate Dean for International Students means that I've been dealing with this since January. And we've been watching the attention of the institution move from how we deal with students who are affected by a travel ban to how we deal with students on campus. So we're right in the middle of that work at the moment. And I'm passing on to George.
Hi, everybody. I'm George Station. I am a lecturer at Cal State Monterey Bay, west coast of California. And I'm at home 1 mile from where 12 of those famous cruise ship passengers have just been housed from earlier in the week. So fascinating. My campus closed officially. The announcement went out yesterday afternoon, about 3 o'clock. And today was our first day of closure. So things are a little bit hectic, and we're doing a lot of Zoom and Google Hangouts and so on as we figure some things out. The official message from the provost about instruction has gone out as well. And we knew it was coming, we just didn't know what day. And so we are closed, suspended classes until the 19th of March. And then from the 20th of March to the 24th of April, we're doing what we're calling alternative modes of instruction. And we're not using the word online that much. We are capable, but kind of capacity limited with our LMS and a couple of other technologies. And we have a very capable Center for Academic Technologies. I've got kind of a dashed line relationship with. They're just, staff for enough, for all the faculty is a problem. And I'm also formally working this spring with our Center for Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. So I just did a Zoom session with our lecturer cohort this morning, and more to follow on all of that. I'm concerned about our librarians, our counselors, especially who counsel students, and our coaches. I think the faculty will be figuring some things out with a lot of help, but our other unionized people are the librarians, our coaches and counselors, and what do they do under what conditions. There hasn't been a lot on that, nor has there been a lot for the rest of our staff on campus keeping things running. And so I'm working with our faculty union on that. Okay, and with that, I think I'm passing it to Robin.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Robin DeRosa. I'm the director of the Open Learning and Teaching Collaborative in New Hampshire in the US. And I'm joined by my trusty librarian friend, Kristen Wixon, and my collab affiliate and undergraduate, Jess Christian. Want to say hi, guys?
Hello.
And we got the word late last night that on Monday and Tuesday of this coming week, classes are canceled, and then we are moving to remote/online solutions on Wednesday. And so weirdly, this has put someone with a PhD in early American literature at the center now of disaster planning, apparently, because it's our office that's coordinating a lot of this shift. And honestly, it's incredibly surreal, and I just can't even tell you that I don't feel like I'm awake. But the other thing is, because we are rushing so much to figure this out, because our announcement came kind of late in the game for this area, I may not be able to stay on the call all that long, so we'll see how long we last, but that's where we are. And up next is Jasmina.
Hi. So I'm Jasmina Najjar, and I'm at the American University of Beirut, and I'm in Beirut, obviously. And this is actually our second week teaching online. And it's proving to be a bit of a roller coaster, because Lebanon is notorious for having some of the worst internet in the entire world. So a lot of my students are facing a lot of issues. We have power cuts as well. So I really can't do anything synchronously without leaving some students out. So I'm having having to think about what I can do to make things asynchronous yet engaging, shall we say. And I'm also trying to be accessible to students, and trying to create some kind of online community. Let's see how it goes, though. This is a bit of an adventure for me. So and now it's on to Danielle, who I think has disappeared, maybe.
I can see her still here, but maybe she's muted and she doesn't realize. Danielle, can you unmute?
She has
or
no.
if you're having problems with the audio, you could type.
She
Oh, is
said
that
in the
what
chat
just-
she has no mic and no camera.
Oh. Okay, thanks, Alan. Could you read out what she wrote?
Sure, I have no mic and no camera, so I have to go by
That's all?
text. I
Okay,
can
but
see.
didn't she describe herself? I think GoGN student, right?
Yeah, I can see and hear you all. I'm an instructional designer at University of Ottawa. Classes are canceled on Monday and Tuesday to allow us to shift to everything online. Face-to-face exams are canceled. One thing with us is that we have to offer services in both English and French, so it takes more time to get things done. Also, I'm a member of GoGN as a PhD student doing research on OER and higher education.
Thanks, Ellen. And I just really have to comment on this one, because I'm sure in their face-to-face, they're not speaking two languages at the same time. So I don't know why when they close down, they have to make life harder for everyone. But I mean, I'm just trying to imagine why they have that requirement. So next up is Jeff.
Hi,
who
everyone.
speaks French.
I do. I'm Jeff Guim. I'm based at the American University of Paris in France, and so like all universities in France, as of Monday, we'll be going fully online. we're a liberal arts college, and essentially all of our instruction is face-to-face normally. So this is a big and complicated transition for the faculty at our institution. I should mention also that I'm director of a consortium that's based at the American University of Paris, but it's a consortium that includes 30 international liberal arts institutions around the world in about 22 countries. And I think at last count, we have about 8 of the institutions that have informed us that they are now fully online. But I'm sure that we'll be having to update that, in the coming days as things evolve. So I'm trying to help both our university, but also the consortium in dealing with this transition.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine. I am in Ireland, where since 6 p.m. last night, all schools, colleges, universities, and childcare centers have closed. So you can imagine the challenges that presents to everyone. I work at the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. So we're a small unit that supports students and those who teach across all the institutions. So today was just on a laptop and on my phone, I think all day. So about an hour before this call, I dropped a blog post just about some of the practicalities and the emotion of what's happening at the moment. Really looking forward to the call, and it's just a joy to see you all, I have to say, after what's happening. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Taub. I'm in Allentown, Pennsylvania in the US, where the governor has just declared that, that all public schools, or all schools, K through 12, will be closing on Monday. So in addition to the shifts that are happening on my campus, there's a lot of concern for faculty and staff whose kids are going to be home now. And so that's going to be a challenge. Our president announced on Tuesday that we would be holding classes face-to-face until today, at which point all students having just arrived back from spring break on Monday are now leaving today. And until April 14th, we will be having classes remotely. Like George, I'm wanting to draw some distinction on campus between teaching and learning remotely and teaching and learning online, because we've been quite intentional as a liberal arts campus building an initiative in online learning that really centers the human and requires a 5-month faculty development program. And so now in the last week, we've met with 55 faculty one-on-one. And on Monday and Tuesday, we'll conduct 2-day-long trainings for about 200 faculty to get them ready to do something more than just move their classes to Zoom, which seems to be the prevailing thought, that we're just going to teach during our class time on Zoom. And so my current thinking is my job is to dissuade everyone from doing that. And I'm the dean for digital learning. I don't operate very well in crisis mode, so I can't tell you what it's doing for my heart and my emotional state to be on this call with all of you and feeling like we're in it together.
Hey, I think I'm up next. I'm Nate Angel. I'm in Portland, Oregon, in the United States. Unlike anyone else here, I work for a different organization, Hypothesis, the nonprofit that supports sanitation technology. And I'll just say that we are seeing an incredible amount of institutions in your position that are looking for all sorts of different kinds of things they want to do. One of the things they are doing is online annotation. A lot of you are already doing that, so that's very cool. And I'm just really here to learn from what all you are doing and see how we can help support you as best we can. Next up, I think, is Rayanne, if I said that right.
Rayanne, do you have audio? Yes.
Yes. Hi everyone. So my name is Rayan, and I work at the American University of Beirut. I actually work with Jasmine. So we've been working on helping our faculty members start teaching remotely since 2 weeks ago. And yesterday, the president sent us that even the faculty members and the staff are not going to be on campus anymore. until further notice. So the things that we've been doing has so far been very good with the faculty members. We've been onboarding most of them through virtual meetings and through face-to-face sessions.
Scott, you're next.
Hey. Hi, I'm Scott. I'm at Portland State University in Portland, Oregon, just down the road from Nate. Yesterday it was announced that the K-12 schools were closing and Portland State was moving to alternative forms of instruction. So I work in the Office of Academic Innovation. We're essentially a center for teaching and learning. And like some of others on the call, we are kind of in disaster management mode. So it's a little hectic here right now. So I'll try and stay on as long as I can, but it's good to see you all.
George Siemens, I think you're up next.
All right, hey y'all. There was two George S's in here, and there was one George that spoke before, so I was trying to find how many of us are here. Anyway, George Siemens, I'm currently in Australia. I'm in the middle of just having, I think, 7 or 8 conferences canceled. So I was supposed to be en route to Melbourne today, and then out to Germany for the LAC conference. So that's not working. So a couple of quick overviews. UTA has a pretty significant reduction in classroom learning. You're still seeing the students meeting in research environments, but the rest of the engagement in classrooms is an extended spring break week, which we're in an extra week, and then fully online instruction after that with no set end date. In Australia, it's been a little bit slower to develop, even though there's some dialogue about it. But with UniSA, I haven't seen any specific move online. But great to hear everybody sharing their experiences where they're at, and happy to be part of the conversation here.
I think Taleni is
you're up. Taleni, do you want to try unmuting and introducing yourself? Yeah, your camera's working, and I think you unmuted. Want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Well, now you muted yourself.
So are we talking about me? Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Tudaleni Asino, and I am at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. And I think, like everybody here, sort of confused and head spinning around at the speed of how everything is moving. We are closing today for spring break holiday for about a week, and then we will extend. After that, we'll go to remote for 2 weeks after that, and then evaluate after.
Okay, and then Parissa, and then Ken, and then Tiger, and Neda, and Kate Malloy. So Parissa, you're up next.
Hi everyone, my name is Parissa. I'm originally from Iran and now I'm based in Japan. Now I'm on the break, so universities are closed. It's a little different from other parts of the world. But elementary schools, junior high and high schools are closed here. I guess by the end of March. And I haven't heard anything from my university, so I assume I will be teaching. And people don't talk about online education here, and it's a little weird because Japan is famous for its high technology. And by the way, my dissertation was on online education, so I'm ready to do that, but I don't think universities are going to ask for it. Probably they will postpone and then they will continue the classes during summer. This is my guess. And I'm here to learn from you.
So I guess I'm up next. Ken Bauer. I'm here at the Tecnológico de Monterrey here in Mexico in the Guadalajara campus. We just got the news yesterday that all 26 of our campuses are finishing online or in-person classes today. Some students aren't coming anyway, and we're being very acknowledging their choices on that. I'm happy to say that our institution was very compassionate and reaching out to the students and giving them lots of options in the announcement they made yesterday. So that was really nice to see after what I've been seeing lately. And we go to a week of intense training for teachers next week. So no classes at all next week. And then we go online on the 23rd, which is the Monday, until our Easter break, which starts on the last day of class will be the 3rd, and then we'll evaluate and see where we are going forward. I'm just trying to hang out and help my colleagues. More tacos, yes. Thanks, Alan. And I'm not sure who's up next.
Tiger?
Tiger 611.
I think we lost Tiger 611 and we might have lost Nada too. Do you see Nada?
Oh, no, but we gained Brian.
Yes. So the next person on the
So-
list is Kate M. Malloy.
Hi, folks. Kate Malloy. I'm a learning technologist at NUI Galway. So I know I was on a V-Connecting session earlier in the week where things were kind of uncertain, but all schools and colleges, I'm sure as Catherine has mentioned, have now closed. As of 6 p.m. yesterday, our institution was closed. We did not have much time to prep given the uncertainty of things. So I'm still technically working on some support materials right now with our director, Ian McLaren, just trying to get some tips out to students, especially given that some of our students are so rural and might not have the infrastructure to actually move online. And that's what's happening for us, is that we have a week to move everything to online. We're closed to the 29th. We don't know what will happen after that. So lots of emails still flying back and forth at this hour of the night. So if I don't stay the entire time, I apologize, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And I believe after me was Martha.
I am late to the game here and my dog is about to start barking. Sorry, so I don't know if Robin has spoken yet. Plymouth State, though, where we both are, has just decided in the last 24 hours to go to virtual remote learning starting on Wednesday, Monday, and Tuesday. We are going to be just working with faculty, helping them prepare.
Yes, I told them.
Okay, so I'll shut up now. Bye.
Okay, and Brian. And Len made it. Oh, wow. Brian, can you unmute and introduce? Are you Brian Lamb? Are you another Brian?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I wasn't planning to be a blabber. I have Brenna, my colleague, representing the team, and I am here fending off angry emails from various senior administrators here at the university. And
Yeah,
looking
I
to some very
I
nice
have a
work
voice
presented.
text. I have a voice text, so I can't listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think much like everyone else, we kind of knew this was coming probably last Friday. We prepared an assessment for Monday morning, and we've had a document that we've been trying to get out to instructors. It's been a little frustrating getting the messaging out because quite reasonably, the university wants to have a single point of information and not overwhelm people, but it means that a lot of questions aren't being addressed. So I'll defer to Brenna from this point on, because she's really she can really speak to some of the direct approaches that we're doing with instructors and students from here.
I think we have one more, Len.
Len, yes. Len, there are two of you. Yay!
I'm here.
Wonderful. Yay! Can you introduce yourself real quick and tell us if you're
Yeah.
closed or open?
Yeah, well, I'm Len. I'm from Guyana. We're closed, I think. Yeah, we are. We just came off a mid-semester break, and then we're told to stay home for a week because we had some elections problem going on, post-election problems, and now we're told that let's stay home for another 2 until, well, another 1 until the 20th. Who knows what will happen after then? We don't know. We're kind of, I don't think we know how to move on with this. So that's where I am. That's why I'm at home, kind of chilling and trying to do other things.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm still thinking about the most equitable way to hold this conversation. But I think in this context, I want to start with Fran because she's been in the thick of this, I think, for the longest. And I know Fran already knows how to deal with teaching online, but I want to hear a little bit more about what's been happening in Italy. And then Robin, because I know she has to go, and then I'll let the conversation flow.
Okay. Oh, so thanks, Maha, and everyone. So yeah, in Italy, I work in. I'm not a learning technologist, so I don't have a big responsibility in my university to support staff, and I'm just a teacher, and I've been teaching online for a while, and I've been working on Erasmus Virtual Exchange, so a kind of online project connecting students with Maha students and across the globe. And there hasn't never been much interest in online learning, except for, we have some online Italian universities. But other than that, people maybe post their lecture notes on Moodle, but not much other than that. So the transition from face-to-face to online just happened literally over a weekend. So there wasn't any prep time. So I'm hearing that a lot of you have preparation time, you've been thinking about it, preparing, even if in a very kind of condensed way, but we didn't have any of that. But the Digital Learning Center, what they've been doing is, Zoom, I'm afraid. So it's a lot of Zoom and lecturing online for people it seems to be working in that the system is supporting it. We do have, they said the other day that we reached 45,000 students in one day, because it's a very big university and lectures are always overcrowded. So we're replicating the lecture mode in the online classes, and we're using Moodle system. Other than that, what to say? Schools, I think schools are having a much harder time of it because, schools have been closed for over 2 weeks now. And, my son, for example, he's in his final year, he's graduating school this year, and we don't know what's going to happen there. Today, he started having online lessons for the first time, but very little.
Is there support, Fran, for making this transition? Is there centralized support, at least at University of Padova, or in a bigger context?
There's a digital learning center, and they have about maybe 5 staff for maybe 10 staff for a university with 3,000 lecturers and 60,000 students. So in February we had Digital Week, where they were kind of doing some courses on Moodle, Kaltura, things like that, and there was some participation, but I mean not every lecturer attended these courses, nor did they think they would be facing this kind of situation. And there hasn't been an online course preparing people for this transition to online teaching. So people are just muddling their way through with some support from colleagues, but I haven't heard yet from students how it's early days. I mean, this has been the first week that we've really gone full scale with the online teaching.
Yeah. Well, and the question is, you're saying you haven't heard yet from students. One of the things my students have been saying is the administration are making these decisions and not talking to them at all, almost. They're barely talking to faculty, but they're really not talking to students at all. And that's another issue, is like at least faculty know what's happening to prepare, and the students don't know anything, and it gets making them even more anxious. And they don't know how to prepare. We're working on preparing the faculty, but not anything for the students over here. Robin, there were some people talking in the chat, like, having you in the position you're in is probably better than anyone else because we know that you will do it with care. But I also know that trying to do it with care takes a lot more effort than just getting it done in the sense of, let's just train people, get them off and just move on. So
Well, yeah, and also, what are you doing with care, right? Like, you're not really going to, hey, could you keep it down just 1 second, because they really don't want to hear me talk very long. Now they're literally all staring at me like that. Yeah, I'm going to go right after this because it's nuts. But basically, I think two things. The first is, what can anyone really do? So particularly Martha and I have been interested in trying to set a tone of, we're not moving online. We're compassionately handling an emergency in our community. And that is something I think many teachers are good at doing. And so we're trying to nurture that in our teachers, because we're not really going to be able, with the amount of staff we have here, which is almost nothing, to mount online courses. But the other thing I was also thinking about before I went that I wanted to throw out there, because I was actually going to go give a keynote next week at in Dearborn, Michigan with Autumn, and that of course is canceled. But when I was writing that, I was writing about this emergent public health crisis, and how that relates to open education and connected learning. These are such related principles for so many of us who work in online education, because what we're profoundly interested in is a knowledge commons and access and thinking about collaboration. And so I guess part of what I'm thinking is, as I work with faculty to move them online in a public health crisis, can we be somehow cognizant that this crisis is not unrelated to the kind of values that I'm constantly espousing when I'm talking about working online. So somebody said, can you give that keynote on YouTube, Robin? Well, of course, when that keynote got canceled, I was like, oh, thank God, now I don't have to finish the keynote. But I am gonna try to write something up, but obviously it will be way after next week because of the craziness over here. But I wonder if for all of you, especially in the US, where we don't have public health care, right? Everything's privatized. And we now see this public health crisis where we're going to pay for the fact that some people can't afford to quarantine themselves or keep themselves healthy. This is all related to the kinds of things we're talking about when we're thinking about public education, when we're thinking about open education, knowledge commons, open access to research. So I don't want to lose sight of this emergency as part of what we're working for all the time in the work that we do. And I don't want to confuse that by start saying, get on Zoom, you know, we have to have other conversations at the same time. So that's what I got.
Thanks, Robin. All right, at this point, I don't want to facilitate in any more structured way. I just want people to jump in. But if someone's talking, you want to say something, just let us know in the chat so that we make sure that we wait for you to speak next. So, who wants to start? I know nobody in this room is shy. So.
Well, I might start by asking, since we are waiting for word here at TRU, we haven't actually been able to move anyone yet. But I thought maybe for those of you who have experience of being in the thick of it or in the early stages of it and supporting faculty through it, in sort of general broad sweeping terms, what we're looking at when I think about care and students, we're thinking about things like access really carefully, because if our students aren't here, many of them are remote. We don't know what their connectivity is going to be like. And so really trying to push faculty away from a sense of business as usual and encouraging them instead to think about sort of getting through it and embracing asynchronicity and small file sizes and not expecting students to all be able to log into like a video conference to a Zoom. Like that would not be realistic for for many of our students. The flip side is we're dealing with probably a population where at least 30% of our faculty have never logged into our learning management system. And so trying to narrow like the scope of what we are going to be able to support. We're a very small team, and reasonable expectations from faculty in terms of putting students first. So that's where we're at, you know, asking people to really think in terms of care and sustainability and access when they make their choices. And for the first time in my life, actually gearing people towards the learning management system because I know that I can manage the support of it. So I'd love to hear feedback from those of you who are further into this process than us on what we're thinking about.
Hi, I'd like to just say a few things. As I mentioned, this is our second week teaching fully online. And I'm actually a faculty. I teach academic writing and technical communication for engineering. And at AUB, I mean, they've already decided that we're going to continue teaching online for the next 45 days, and maybe we might extend that for additional 15. And we're experiencing a lot of challenges because we were basically, let's say, thrown into it. What I mean by that is, I'm very lucky. I've always been interested in teaching with technology, but as you know, as many mentioned, we have a lot of faculty members on campus who've never opened Moodle. You know what I mean? And I wonder what they're doing, honestly. And I think about, Rayanne and her team, and there are only so many of them. They do a wonderful job. They're super supportive, but what can they do under such circumstances? And, and things are really, they're just moving forward. And then I realized first off that while I was coping, my students were not coping because they've never taken an online course before. So I found myself having to prepare, let's say, a crash course for my students on how to deal with the online environment. And I'm facing a problem myself at the moment between the emails, and I created a Slack channel for my students as well so that they can contact me. I'm spending on average 5 hours a day just communicating with students, which is preventing me from doing the grading that I need to do, etc. So I'm feeling really overburdened. So I'd like to ask people's advice. I want to be there for students. I've obviously switched to everything asynchronous because I know they have internet problems and they have connectivity issues. But a lot of the platforms that are very engaging are synchronous rather than asynchronous. So any recommendations for something engaging that's asynchronous and I don't need to pay for would be, highly appreciated. And also just recommendations for how I can deal with the workload.
So several people in the chat have been telling you Slack. Wow, that's quite a few people. So Kate Bowles, Clarissa, Autumn, and I all said Slack immediately. And the cool thing
And I'm using Slack. I have
you are already using Slack.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got a Slack channel, and I'm getting calls and messages, and they were all like, "Why aren't we using Discord?" And I'm like, "Well, okay, well, I already created Slack. I'm sorry." But honestly, I'm spending like a good 5-6 hours a day just communicating with students. I want to be there for them, but at the same time, I need to grade and I need to prep my courses. Yeah. So what's the sweet?
I have a feeling that Kate Bowles would be a good person to talk about this. Am I right?
Okay, so one thing that I'm doing at the moment is using a very good little tool called Clockify to track my time. Because I think this is in fairness also to my colleagues who are paid by the hour. I work with a big casual team, and we have to make sure that we are responsible to people's time. And I think that does mean not doing everything. Slack is a space where students can answer each other's questions. And I am focusing very much in my work with students on sending the message that this is under control, that they have the skills to do this, and they have the skills to manage their questions. Triage is really the focus at the moment. Triaging issues with affordability, accessibility, that they don't need a lot of equipment, but we need to know if they're going to be doing it on their phone. That's the really important question for me is, if you're going to be doing this on your phone, I'm going to change what I do. So I think time is really critical here. The other thing that I want to say is that I'm really interested that there hasn't been a mention so far of how long we've been dealing with this in relation to students who are unable to travel. Our university has been doing this for China and delivering remotely into China well before we had any problems on campus. And I think you might find that some of the hardest problems to solve have really been addressed by some university somewhere dealing with students who can't travel rather than students who are being sent away. So I'm not sure, Parissa, if that was what you heard me talking about, a travel ban, but in the Australian context, that's the ban on students coming to Australia from China, which has now been extended to Korea and Italy. So that's a big answer, but I would say track your time. I don't think that's an unfair or anti-pedagogical or anti-care thing to do. I think if we don't self-care in this time, we will burn out because this is not going to be done in 2 weeks. So self-care involves self-care of our time. That's my Clockify. It's great.
I'd like to add to that, Kate. I think your wisdom at the end there was so profound. And I think it's important to share those ideas with students about self-care. I've been very communicative with them about taking care of them, learning how to take care of themselves, that it's a critical part of learning overall is being able to take care of oneself. So I've been quite purposeful in communicating those kinds of tips in the context of whatever we're proceeding with.
And I'll jump in with one. I just did a really short blog post on, not my personal blog, but a blog that Dave Cormier put together, Online Learning in a Hurry. So it's oliah.ca, about putting together a pivot strategy document. So I went back to the syllabus and looked at all my policies and looked at all the stuff I said about attendance and participation and points, and said none of that applies anymore. None of that matters anymore. I need to update that. And so this document is an addendum to the syllabus. I link back to the syllabus, but I say this is, and I start off with a care statement. Start off saying first things first, your health, your family's health is the most important thing. Here's how we're going to proceed going forward. And I state all of that stuff out. And then I also opened it up to the students, and I put it forth not as like, this is our new thing and it's like in stone, but this is my proposal for our strategy about how we go forward. And I'm very interested in what you have to say about this. Please comment on it. If you have other ways, other ideas, the main point is flexibility. So to Jasmina's call for like, how do you make sense of this? I think that document is going to be a way for us to continue forward, and a way to make them part of the conversation about how we're going to continue on. I'm a little bit lucky because this class was hybrid to begin with. So we only met for an hour and 15 minutes a day, or not an hour and 15 minutes a day, an hour and 15 minutes a week. But we're not going to be meeting in person at all anymore. So thank you for the link there, Daniel.
How come when I unmute myself, my dog begins barking? So many of our conversations with faculty over the last 2 days have started with conversations about care, because when they're talking about moving to Zoom lectures for an hour and 15 minutes, 2 days a week during the same scheduled class time that they have on campus, they're making a lot of assumptions that sort of belie the need for care. And those assumptions are things like that students are going to be available in that same time, that they're going to have access, that there isn't going to be other kinds of crisis happening in their homes, or that the financial hardship that going home from the semester means that some of them are going to start to work part-time jobs because they've lost their on-campus work-study jobs. So we're finding it really helpful to just introduce a conversation about what care looks like in these times, because some of us aren't really thinking a lot about care in normal times. I mean, we're caring about content, we're caring about completing course requirements, but we're not necessarily thinking about what it means to care for the student as a person first. And I have found in these like conversations with these first 55 faculty we've been meeting with this week that once it's put in that context, that's what opens them up to start to reimagine more asynchronous activities that introduce the possibility that students can complete this work and engage with each other and the faculty member on their own time throughout the week, rather than the time that the faculty member thinks setting aside is going to be most convenient. And so, it's not just care, it's care in unusual, uncertain, and for some students, precarious times.
I have a question. So are you guys thinking of ways to get feedback from the students and from the faculty members to see their perspectives, or to see what exactly they need in terms of support or in terms of different methods of delivering their content and their courses during this time?
We definitely should. I know that Laura Chernovich from University of Cape Town in South Africa had a campus closure situation a couple of years ago, and they did research on that. I'm going to plug that link in here. And I know my department, we're thinking of trying to collect feedback as much as possible. But I'm curious about what other people are doing. And Ryan, if you asked that question, I'm wondering if you already have that in place at AUB, or if you're trying to see what other people are doing first. I'll plug the link in.
So the only thing we started thinking about is to have surveys for specific selected courses and selected number of students, but we still don't have anything implemented. We actually should do something next week.
I wonder if I could hop in here again. I've been reaching out to a lot of students, but there is very little that is systematic that is being done at this level. And it's partly because in a large public university, it's relatively difficult to find the right channel for communicating outwards to students, and even harder to find the right channel for communicating in for them, because they're not email users. And this is really important because we are chronic email users. And students have been telling me, well, I don't use my university email. If you email me there, I'll never get it. And I think that's what this has flushed out, is that students communicate in multiple ways. So messages inevitably miss a lot of them. And as a result, we resort to things on websites, university websites, that they will default to being the most, the coldest in tone. Because all universities are risk averse when it comes to putting information on their website about health. So the students are getting messages that are the least human, because that's all we can figure out how to do. So I think it's a real problem. I think students should be in this conversation with us, co-planning.
I was just thinking back to what I'm sort of trying to concentrate on both the text and what people are saying. I'm thinking about this focus of care and whether this is actually an opportunity to model citizenship and other more effective, less measurable things to students. I think this is sort of coming out in all these conversations, rather than modeling, let's stick to the learning outcomes and finish what we need to do for accreditation purposes. It might be a situation where we help model values and what we prioritize in life to students. And I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what people are thinking about in that sense.
I'm going to chime in. Since I'm teaching elementary kids, and we literally, today was the first test day, right? So I had my second graders all bring their iPads to PE, and both my colleague and I had done a mini sort of short 2-minute video with some instructions, and just to see what would happen. Okay, well, how will they access? Will they know Seesaw? Will this work? The answer is not really. It's not the expectations coming from administration, sort of thinking, well, they know Seesaw. They you give them some instructions, and these are things that they should be able to do independently. And I'm thinking, no, oh no. It's simply not. It's not intuitive. It takes long. And like adults, they don't read. I mean, they just can read, but they're not going to understand that the instructions are in the video, that that's information for them to do something with. And so when I think about this, if this is what we are thinking elementary students should be able to do, I'm just thinking, what world are we living in? What you know, especially if you have children, if you're around children, they are curious. They want to do things. They want to be active, but this notion of, well, we want to deliver the curriculum is the wrong way. It's the wrong thought process. The care piece, that yes, it will mean something to them that if they can see my face, hear my voice, and have me wave at them once a day. That's great. That's lovely. That's care, and that's what's important to them. It's not about that they give me that they tell me, oh, I did this. That's not important. It's about maintaining the relationship. And so I'm really listening to this all unfold and wondering about how we account for that in a scale that many of you are dealing with, right? When you're talking about hundreds of students, how do we still think about maintaining those relationships or creating context for students also with each other to create those communities that they need to sustain themselves at all in these times?
I want to just respond quickly and say how important I think Sherry's remarks are for K through 12 and higher ed. The students that I spoke with said exactly the same thing. When I asked them, how would you like to stay connected? How do we stay present for each other? They said, I mean, I have a small class, I have 15 students. They said, can we share phone numbers and have a group text? I said, sure. And then they said, can we have a Facebook group and stay connected there? And I said, well, I'm not going to do that on Facebook, but you guys create a Facebook group and stay connected with each other. And all of that was so important to them. And already today they're testing out the group text and they're having fun. They're sending each other photos and GIFs of where they are. And my thinking is that when I meet with the full faculty Monday and Tuesday, what I'm going to say to them is at the end of the very first week, ask your students, give them a reflection prompt. What has this looked like, felt like this week? Where are you at? And what can we shift or add or change as we move into next week? Is there another way we can stay present? Is there another way to stay connected? What does care look like now that you've been here for a week experiencing this so that we can move forward? Without that care, the content and the technology is meaningless.
Everybody's clapping silently.
Applauding. Yeah,
Unmute and do that.
Can I chime in, Maha?
Yes, please.
I was just going to say that, you know, it's so possible to do this. And when I was thinking about what I could contribute last weekend, I put up some notes about blogging. And this weekend I was going to put up some notes about Twitter. And, you know, this really can be done. And that's what I don't want to lose sight of, that we really can make a difference. And at my school, they're pushing Zoom and Canvas, but you know, you can connect even with just a few other people at your school and other channels. We've got a great system going, and I wanted to make sure to share this. We've got 2 websites right now set up. One called Teach Anywhere, that's faculty oriented. So it's ou.edu/Teach Anywhere. So I love those URLs, right, that aren't totally overwhelming. And then we've got one for students too, which I think is really important. So that's ou.edu/Learn Anywhere. And they put a CC license on those, so schools that are looking for some content and materials that are general kind of all-purpose, we're about to move our classes and teach remotely, you can find those materials there and they're ready to go and adapt and remix and do whatever you need to. And what I really like about those is that they can grow, you know, so if we are learning as we go along here, and just like Laura said, we need to learn week by week what's working, what's not, and I really hope they'll be updating those web pages, and I know they will. We have fantastic people working on that so that we can learn as we go and share what we're learning, because we're obviously not going to get this right the first time, but hopefully we can build in some feedback mechanisms so that we can learn as we go and keep doing better, because this is going to get harder, right? Not easier. There are going to be more care
issues that come forward, and people are going to need more different kinds of help. But I'm optimistic that having those web pages institutionally will be great. And I'm really glad that, you know, I'm chugging along at my blog, and my students all have their blogs that they can share with their friends and family, right? I mean, because they want to stay connected, not just to their teachers and fellow students, but just stay connected in general. And now I'm so glad that all my students have their blogs full of their stories and personality and videos and photos, and that's good. They have some online presence. So that's my pitch. I love blogging.
It occurs to me hearing Laura talk that it just brings me back to that point that was brought up earlier that I've heard people say different things, right? This isn't online learning, or this isn't real instructional design. I don't know what the word is for it, but this is much different than even what we do right now. And I think about the different modalities. I'm teaching a hybrid class. The difference between online and hybrid, it's almost like we're here at like the birth of a new modality, like emergency, everybody's got to do this. It's just like a completely different like world. And I think we need to think about it like that. Just like we talk about the difference between web enhanced and hybrid and online, we need to think of this as a new modality. And we're still figuring out you know, what works in this modality and what doesn't.
Marisa had a question.
Yeah, because I heard the word travel ban, so immediately Trump travel ban or Muslim ban came to my mind. I'm really interested in knowing how institutions, especially in the US, deal with this issue, because some students have a valid visa, but recently they get deported. So I really believe online education can help. I mean, like, I don't know if the universities offer online courses to these students. That's my question.
Parisa, I think your question is, as someone is in higher ed leadership in the US, really tied to the concern that Autumn was just raising, like, what do we call this? And my concern is that related to the travel ban, related to other Trump policies, and just related generally to the sort of neoliberalization of higher ed, that this moment that we're struggling in, that is emergent and that is all about crisis, this could so easily, in a hot second, get leveraged to drive forward and power the same kinds of policies that underpin Trump's travel ban, and to make that the normal operating procedures of our institution. So I think all of us here who are able to, part of the care we need to be attending to is care that the stuff we're asked to do during crisis mode does not become normalized, so that it justifies the kind of exclusionary practices that you're pointing to, Parisa.
Right. Thank you.
Can I just ask about this idea of online education? Because one of the concerns I have in Italy is, and in Europe, I suppose, with all these online initiatives, is that it's kind of used as, or it has been used before this crisis to say we're doing something. So offering online tools for asylum seekers and keeping them out of Fortress Europe. It's this kind of way of keeping people at a distance as well, or it's manipulated in this way. I don't know if that's happening in the US and Paris. I don't know if you get that sensation too with Iran as well. I mean, one of the things I'm really sorry about is that we were supposed to be hosting an Iranian scholar coming to Italy now, and she can't come because of the travel ban because of Corona. But the fear with online education is that it is used as a kind of thing. Yeah, we're doing something for you, but that's going to keep you in your place.
You know, my understanding is that so far we have used technology for the sake of technology, and it's strange that Japanese universities are not really interested in offering online education. So, and I think those professors that they do, they're just interested in using technology. That's it. So this is what I describe as technology for the sake of technology. But now the situation is very different.
I think that is a real concern because even here at Oklahoma State, where I am, there are some academic programs where students from other countries are not allowed to enroll in if the majority of the content is online. So a lot of the executive programs that are sort of condensed program, you have a tough time enrolling that and coming to the US for a whole term or semester. If it's a condensed, you will not be able to get a visa for that. So that is part of, I think, what's happening and how it's unfolding so fast. The truth is that none of us know how it's going to turn out. But the fact of the matter is, there are some very interesting consequences that could come as a result of a lot of these things. For me, as somebody who's both a practitioner in online education and as a researcher, is that I think there's also a danger in sort of conflating what online education really is. And I think for what is going to be happening for some of this is that some people are going to be teaching by remote. And that teaching by remote doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, now we're going to have to do away with a lot of other classes. I can also see some of this being used as a way of potentially curtailing certain programs and say, well, if we can do it online during this time, why can't we just move that whole program now online? Those are all concerns, but the fact is that I don't think any of us really know what's going to be happening. But the visa issue is going to be something that could potentially have a lot could be a massive consequence as a result of this.
I did not know all that. So, I mean, I didn't know that thing about the visas, and there's so many different dimensions to this that I think when like a department like mine gets asked to do certain things, we're asked to just do a certain part of it, and you don't see the rest of it. You don't see all these other dimensions. You don't see the accreditation, and then you're asked to do it in such a short amount of time, and you have to, like, you know, put it all together, and you have to worry about the logistics. Then you want to care about the faculty, and you want to care about the students. And then some things like that are going to fall through the cracks and maybe nobody notices them. So for example, what happened with ours is that for some reason, instead of sending all faculty that there would be trainings, they decided to ask the department chairs to send their faculty. And there are some people who teach in our liberal arts core curriculum who don't belong to a department, and they don't have a department chair. And I'm one of them. So I noticed that, but I'm the person giving the training, but everyone else in that space is an adjunct who has no department chair. I was like, hey, by the way, is someone going to send these people? And so thankfully, now that they remember them, they're starting to send them everything as well. But I mean, there are all these, we don't have a lot of international students for all kinds of reasons, but a lot of people who have international students have a much more complex situation. We were talking also before we went live about people in dorms and the dorms closing down. What kind of other unexpected issues come up that maybe administrators hadn't thought about or you hadn't thought about?
One thing I'm really struck by is the immediate and very pressureful charge for the digital learning team to usher this, to shepherd this shift with no real advanced forethought, certainly no conversation with me, let alone anyone on my team about what does this mean for the workloads of the instructional designers, of the instructional technologists, of the faculty developers, who are literally working around the clock because you just can't keep up with the email. And so I'm really concerned about the care being directed towards the people on whose shoulders all of this rests, but who aren't necessarily entering this moment with a real strong sense of their value or visibility or presence on campus. So this week, while they've been turning to the faculty, my attention has really been, I'm trying to keep my attention focused on this team. And I'm hoping, someone has mentioned this on Twitter, I'm hoping that this creates some more positive visibility for the ways that we're always depending on these experts, but not centering or valuing their work within the institution.
I got a great question today from a faculty member that I couldn't answer that I think falls into this question that Meha just asked about what's being overlooked. There's a lot of blog posts. There's a lot of like, how do I put my content online and how do I move this or that online? But I haven't seen, and I'd really love to know if anybody else has seen any online learning in a hurry with accessibility concerns, right? Let's say I'm somebody who would have accessibility issues in an online environment that maybe I can deal with in a face-to-face environment. Like what should be like the most important things when we start moving online when we think about accessibility? Is it meta tags? Is it closed captioning? Is it like where does that fall? I haven't seen anything like that. I just had to tell them I'd throw it out there to my networks and see.
I wonder if someone like Jess Mitchell, I wonder if the folks who work on accessibility specifically might have been doing that kind of thing. And Brian is sending something. Okay, it's an accessible teaching in COVID-19. Okay, we'll keep that link. I'll really try not to lose the chat. And the other thing I was thinking about is actually Tennis Morgan had a post where she was like, you know what? Teach with email. And you know what? Actually, you can get a lot done with email. And I know that in countries in Africa where they have really bad, yeah, exactly, mobiles and very bad electricity and connectivity, they do a lot of things with WhatsApp. And of course, WhatsApp belongs to Facebook and all that. But you know, if you want to reach people, you need to reach people. And thinking about that. But I don't know if that answers your questions at all, Autumn, because maybe you're thinking about even accessibility much way beyond that.
I love this resource that Brian shared. I'm going to share that with my faculty member. I mean, I really don't know what I'm looking for, right? Because that's not my specialty. I'm very interested in accessibility. I know the basics when I'm doing instructional design. But again, this is a completely new modality. I don't know, like, you know, what is the most important thing for me to prioritize when I'm taking content online and I have to make it accessible as well. I also, my own parent university issued a document the other day that I just was amazed that I hadn't seen one of those yet. And it was like, how do I study during COVID? And it was like meant for students. It was the first time I'd seen anybody create a document like that. And I was kind of shocked that that was the first time I'd seen it. I don't know if anybody's seen those since then, but something that was really directed at students saying, you know, think about your time management, think about using the Pomodoro technique, try not to multitask, keep yourself safe, wash your hands, and all of that kind of stuff is in there too, right? So I'll stop talking now and just open it back up, but yeah.
Just adding to that, Autumn, I was also thinking about the issue of distractibility. When we're online, there's this kind of frenetic way in which we zip from place to place, and it's very hard to keep concentrating on anything in particular. And it's actually one of these skills that's like most critical moving forward, is that people are able to center themselves and focus on particular things. And I think this whole moment is going to draw out that issue pretty significantly on a scaled up level. So how our students who are home are learning has a lot to do with their environment, just as you're pointing out. And it also has to do with, you know, their skills in being able to focus on particular things.
And now with the K through 12 schools being closed, well, in Michigan, and I know in other places too, right? Now all the little kids are home. Talking about distractibility, if you're a parent or if you're, even if you got little brothers or sisters or something, right? Like this is now a completely different situation.
I think it's 5:21 now, so we've been on for a little while. I don't want to cut anything off, and yet I also don't want to make an assumption that everyone has all night. So I think Maha and I will stay for a little bit longer so that we can capture some of the links and share it out. But does anyone want to sort of say anything, you know, as a kind of more conclusive reflection?
Maybe just a quick thing. Sorry, you go.
I just wanted to say I actually feel quite optimistic at this time. Although it's very, very challenging this week, the whole process of this is forcing us to look at some of the assumptions that have lingered in higher education and in K-12 for a really long time. The kinds of things that we said we'll get around to thinking about this eventually one day. We'll sort this out. We're now having to sort out a bunch of things. The small optimism that I'm holding on to in relation to some of Laura's comments about the neoliberal university is that we're going to come out of this having really critiqued some of those assumptions. We're going to be much more attentive, as my university already is, to people on precarious academic contracts. We're suddenly noticing that if we go online, a bunch of people with really precarious academic work are going to be affected differently. I think we're going to think differently about attendance and accommodations in a way that we just haven't had to. I think we're going to think differently about lectures, finally. And I think a bunch of things that we've all been doing really well all along are going to shine in this time. And I think we're ready to say, let's get through this and then let's not go back. And I don't think that means online everything all the time. What I mean is what Laura said, being present as the absolute driver of our practice. Let's figure that out and let's say that we don't have to do the things that we did before. I'm quietly hoping that if we all get through this safely, we will get through to a better university system, a more global and thoughtful university system that's more attentive to questions of visas and travel bans and fees. We haven't had one single comment about the money that has driven the panic. I think we're just going to be better for this. Not yet. It's awful this week, but let's stay modestly hopeful.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think the way people have been sharing with each other everywhere, all kinds of people. Honestly, a lot of the people in this conversation are the most caring educators I know in the world. But I think even the people who are generally less caring have been quite generous with sharing what's happening with them and their institutions, sharing resources. And I love that aspiration also to just a better, more global, a global university system, or just global thinking about education and working on it together. That would be beautiful. And honestly, it's because everyone's in the crisis together that we're like that we're in the situation. But yeah.
So,
Sue, did you want to say something? Who else wanted to say something?
It was me. I just wanted to quickly say thank you very much for this opportunity, and I just think it's amazing that we can get together across the globe and share different experiences. You know, I said at the start, if people didn't catch it, we've not closed yet. You know, University of Sheffield have just announced tonight that they're closing. And that's happening from Monday. It's like, how will the students know this if they don't look at their emails? It's gone on the website, but it's just kind of like a very last minute decision, and they're only a mile up the road from where we are. But I think there's an opportunity if maybe I could suggest, Maha, that we do this again at some point. I know everybody's in crisis mode, but I'm not saying next week or even in the next 2 weeks, but the sharing of the ideas and solutions and how we're caring for the students is definitely so valuable. And the more we can do this, the better. Thank you.
There's definitely a plan to do some more. And I think that as a little time unfolds, there'll be other perspectives as well that need to be shared. So absolutely.
Okay. Oh, okay. Am I on? Ooh, I'm not on mute. Great. So I just want to say that one of the things that's going to get us through is inspiring conversations such as this one. Even locally this morning with a few of my lecturer colleagues, we realized that we needed to be talking to and supporting each other through this while there are people in, smoke-filled rooms that are putting out the official pronouncements and so on. And so just conversations like this that are in fact going to be open to others, I think it's going to remain important. And just seeing you all here, it's just been amazing. But my closing thought is that our administrations may be kind of slow to engage on some of the things that Kate's brought up, that Laura's brought up, that Autumn mentioned, et cetera, right? The accessibility thing is really bothering me because even though in principle, we've got all this stuff somewhere on our website, it's not being discussed in terms of COVID-19 coronavirus this week. As we're closing, it's just like the missing element. And I'm hoping to raise some awareness on it locally, but I know other campuses are having the same issue. I'm going to just ask or suggest that even though we usually have the conversation with some version of ourselves, the ourselves that are talking to each other today, that we somehow find the strength or courage or whatever to have it with our administrations anyway, because if all our administrators were Laura, we'd be done. And I'm going to be blunt about that. And they aren't. So what can we do to help them along and not kind of fall into the technology solution trap that some of us fear, is waiting around the next bend? So that's just what I want to add. Just dare to talk to administrators, however we have to figure out how to have that conversation.
I love that, George. I think you're right about that. I love the dare to talk. We're developing hashtags just as we go. Sherry, you were saying some of my favorite moments this week have been impromptu sit downs with my colleagues to talk about how we'll manage all this. It was the same for me, I think. As I was planning this conversation with Mia and DMing with you all, I realized that the care was happening in my day-to-day interactions with faculty and with students, and just sitting and talking about what are we going to do about this, how can we help each other through this. And I have to say, even though there's a lot of care in my face-to-face environment, this community has really been important for me. Both the kinds of questions we ask and the way we support each other, and that I don't have to not hug you. I can virtually hug you and it's fine. Does anybody else want to say one or two last things before we have to go? Thank you so much all for being here. We definitely need to keep talking. The document is still there, bit.ly/online with care. And we'll definitely plan some others like this. Let's also keep thinking about formats and how we can all be together, but still all get a chance to talk. Because I think today there was a really big number of us, and I'm sure some people didn't get a chance to speak or, wanted to say something, but by the time, someone else spoke, it was too late to go back to that topic. So, and Rissa was suggesting, if folks want to blog about it, or what was the hashtag? I've missed it. Like, we've gone so far in the chat, but like I missed the hashtag that people wanted to use. And Mia, do you have any closing words? You always have wonderful phrasing for things, for how you express your feelings.
Well, I think it's been said already. It's like a big, giant group hug. Thank you for the strength that's necessary to keep moving forward, knowing that you're just not alone in a messy situation. We'll have continued conversations for sure. And I also just want to mention on a personal note that I was so deeply frustrated and sad when the OER 20 conference was canceled because of the virus, but we're moving the whole thing online, and now it's open and free to anyone who wants to attend. So this is actually a better result in some ways than you know, the cost involved in getting there and all of that. So look for that online, and the theme of the conference is about care and open education. So it's a kind of continued conversation that we've been designing for a long time, and there's tremendous panels and participation. A lot of the conference is very much future thinking, imagining what the university could be. And now we have this crisis that we all have to face together. We're forced into it. So I think I just wanted to point towards that opportunity for us to speak in that context as well. Many of you already are an essential part of the plan for the conference, but everyone now can be there. So thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. And let us know how we can support OER 20, because I know ALT is such a small group of people. And I'm sure that this change is a very well thought out, very caring decision, but I'm also worried about them. And I want to know how we can. I mean, if it wasn't free, I'd pay for it. So if you can make it like a pay what you want kind of thing, if you want to do that, I would be happy to pay a little bit.
That's actually the way they've done it. So they're returning everybody's registration. But if you want to take only part of it and put part of it as a donation to the organization, then that's your prerogative. And so that's how they've established a sense that you could contribute a little bit if you'd like to, of whatever your own personal determination.
That's great. Okay, thank you, everybody. Sorry, my camera's off. But thank you, everyone, for making it. And we'll stay on that DM. We'll keep that DM as well. If you're not on the DM and you want to be on the DM, just let me or me know, and we'll add you there so that you're permanently in that kind of discussion. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go offline, I think. Let me try to remember.